There it goes.
We're spooling up now. Don't see anything yet. Are you getting a stream yet?
I think I did. I muted it. It came alive long enough for me to mute it.
Oh, there we go. I am seeing a stream now. If people there can see us, say hi. Let us know that we're streaming live. Otherwise, I'm just going to start talking.
People of the earth, can you hear us?
There we go. So we are live. This is Chris with Kersey Fabrications, and I have Bryan here with me from BV3D. Bryan, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people what you're up to.
Hello, 3D printing friends. Today on Chris's channel, we're going to be doing stuff. Now, I am the host of the BV3D channel, and I make YouTube videos about 3D printing and occasionally electronics and stuff like that. So I guess that's me. So, and it's your turn.
Okay. So if you're here, hopefully you're already following me. If not, congratulations on finding this super hidden stream. I am Chris. Like I said, I run the YouTube channel Kersey Fabrications. You can also find me on Facebook, where I'm pretty active, and on Twitter, where I'm semi-active, and on Instagram, where I'm less active. Basically, I try to get a review or some sort of fun project video out every week that turns into every other week. And but that is life with an actual real job and a real family to take care of. So I think everybody probably understands what that's like. But so I've been working on more Ender 5 Plus stuff. You can't really see it in this frame. I can go full screen here probably. And there you go. Here's the Ender 5 Plus. And I've been working on an ExoSlide review. If you're not familiar with ExoSlide, it is a different motion system similar to how you might add linear rails to a printer to get it to run smoother or straighter or whatever you think you're going to get out of linear rails. But this is a system that runs on the outside of your extrusions instead of in the little V grooves of your extrusions. So that's what's coming up next on my channel. And right after that, I am jumping into some SKR boards or Big Tree Tech boards for this printer. And then I've got a whole bunch of more reviews planned. Some of them that I've had to put off because of this whole issue that has us all staying at home, COVID-19, coronavirus, however you want to talk about it. It's kept me at some of those off because China was delayed on some of the production of some of them. So I will have even more 3D printer reviews after that. And Bryan, we're going to jump back to you real quick. Let me make sure you have a screen here. What have you been working on? I know you typically have some reviews or other videos lined up. Have you put those on hold, or are you fresh out?
Well, I have one in the queue scheduled for next week. I managed to kind of get ahead a little bit. When everything started kind of getting really crazy with, toilet paper shortages and stuff like that, that was kind of a really weird panic buy item for everybody. But the company that I work for, their panic buy item was MacBook Pros. So we bought like 50 of those things, and I had to get them all set up. So that took me a couple of weeks, and that kind of exhausted my supply of videos, which is why just before this Monday's video, the video that rolled out was one that I recorded back in November, where I figured out how to reset the touchscreen on my Monoprice Maker Select Plus. But I'm back into it. I've managed to not miss a week, which I'm happy about. And the one that I've got coming out next week, if I don't bump it in favor of another video, is a kind of a first impressions and review of the Sunlu S8 3D printer.
What is the Sunlu S8? I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a 310 by 310 by 400 millimeter build volume, kind of standard Cartesian bed slinger. It looks kind of like a CR10S Pro, where it's got like all the electronics in a kind of a slanted box up at the front of it. But it's kind of got this standard 128 by 64 LCD on it with the knob, kind of like an Ender 3. But it ships with a glass bed, so you would like it. It's just a plain glass bed.
Yeah, that's what I'm running right here.
Yeah, for me, that's a little bit of a challenge. I've always printed on like BuildTak or PEI or stuff like that.
Yep.
I don't necessarily see a plain glass bed as kind of a very like a my first printer sort of build surface. But you can always put like blue tape over it or something and still kind of get the more flat aspect of the glass while still getting something that's easier to get plastic to stick to. But that's
while I hate to I was going to say, while I hate to pile up layers on here, there's nothing wrong with taking that glass plate and putting a removable magnet or something on top, because the glass can provide the flatness while something else can help you get the prints off.
Yeah, and it's it's still not 100% flat. It's got like a little dip in it, but I think pretty much every printer that I own has a slight dip in the middle of the bed, and I don't know why. That's just sort of how they are.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I almost gave up on glass the first time, and then I watched enough Ivan Miranda, who swore by glass for years and years until he got one of the flexible build plates. And he convinced me that it was possible, and I went by his guide when I finally found it. And since then, I've been on glass beds for both of my printers.
Okay, I'll maybe give it more of a try because I got it rather than put tape on it and stuff. But that is now the biggest printer I own. So I want to try to print something kind of epically large on it. I don't know what I'm going to print yet. I want something that uses, a good portion of that build volume.
Yeah, I've got a lot of projects planned, and I've got to stop modding the printer. And again, that's actually what I've been trying to get to. And I don't know. I think after the main board switch out, I'm going to give it a rest and enjoy it for a little while, because I've spent so many months and weeks modding it that it doesn't get a lot of time just printing fun things. The last thing I printed was the head of this droid that I have to finish. This was a great print for that printer. It turned out so nice. But again, I've only gotten through the head, because when you're doing these reviews week after week, you don't get to use it the way you had planned. So
yeah, I find that kind of an issue. I can't start long prints because I might want to start shooting video, and I can't do that while there's a printer going, and it becomes kind of a time management thing.
Yeah, my medium-term goal is to have 2 places to film. At least a place that's kind of a work area film, and then, the backdrop here. And, the idea, of course, is that you can work and film, and you can save, this area for, the intros and the outros or whatever you need.
Right.
So Bardicus says he ruined his Ender 5 Plus by modding it. So Bardicus, you'll have to tell us what you've done now. I know you were waiting on the firmware for that SKR board that you bought, and maybe that's what you're doing. You're still waiting on that firmware. But keep in mind, you can always switch back to the original board until you get the firmware you need. Does the glass bed of the Ender 5 Plus have some sort of coating on it? It does on one side, but not on the other. As long as you remember to peel the plastic off. It does come with plastic on the smooth side. So if you didn't peel that plastic off, I don't know what it would take to get it if it's melted on. But yeah, one side's completely smooth. There's no surface on it. And the other side of mine has this weird gray surface. I think some people print directly on that, but I didn't like it.
Is it like an ultra base thing, or is it all one solid?
No, I wish it was ultra base. If it was ultra base, I'd use it. Because on my very first printer, which is an ANET, I had an ultra base, and that was terrific.
Okay, yeah, the Soval SV01 that I've got has an ultra base type glass thing. It's not ultra base branded, but it's that same kind of, has the little dots on it, and they're kind of etched into the glass. And that works pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mind some of those built-in surfaces. Yeah, I know there's some other surfaces like the surfaces I don't like are like the one that came on the Ender 5, and I think it comes on the Ender 3 Pro, which is that thin plasticky magnet surface. I don't really care for that.
The C magnet sheet that's like real super flexible.
Yeah.
When that first came out,
I don't think
that
it
was
sticks
kind of
very
cool.
well.
Yeah, it depends on how you get it aligned. It's real particular with its alignment because it's not like one side is north and then the other side is south. It's a whole bunch of north-south magnets kind of set side by side in that sheet. So when you lay that other sheet on top of it, you have to make sure that they get aligned just right so that they stick well. And my solution for that is usually kind of let it hang down in a U shape and kind of get the middle of it lined up. You can kind of feel it sort of click into place with those magnets, and then you can just let it flop.
Yeah.
Then you can let it flop, and it tends to stay aligned. But if you have something at the edges of it that wants to kind of curl up, it'll still be able to pull that magnet up if it's like way out at the edges.
Yeah, the newest thing I found, and I talked about this 2 weeks ago, which was I think it was 2 weeks ago, is just a spring steel sheet that Big Tree Tech sells. And they only sell it in the 235 by 235 size. But it's terrific. And one of the things I love about it is it sticks to your existing magnet. So you don't have to do anything. You just pop it on, it's ready to go.
Okay.
So I've got that over here with a failed print on it right now.
Oops.
Yeah, well, this one ticked me off. I was printing this little utility shelf that I designed. I'm going to grab this here because I can pop it off this build plate right now. And then I can start another one since I screwed this one up. But let me grab this. All right, here we go. Try to keep everything within arm's reach. So here is my failed print. As you can see, I ran out of filament, and this one ticked me off because this is 85% done. PETG, which I absolutely hate printing. And I've been printing face masks with it, so my life's been fun. But it's terrific.
Is that a raft or is that adhesion?
No. That was brim. So you can see there's a little on here, but it scrapes right off. Like I said, PTG, I mean, as you probably know, it sticks harder to everything. PLA. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, like I said, there's nothing about PET that I enjoy printing except the fact that if you get a really good print, it's got a really nice finish to it. But anyway, this is the sheet. This is a BiQ sheet. It's actually double-sided, which is really nice. So if you screw up one or if you mar it up enough, you can just flip it over. I'll include links to these after the show in the description so you know where to buy them. Because I had to order these from overseas. They currently do not have these in their Amazon store. But I'm a big fan of this. This is nice spring sheet, pops right back into, and they have this coating on it. I haven't even cleaned this since I've gotten it. Not even with alcohol or water or anything.
Does it have a texture to it?
And I thought it's got a texture to it. But like I said, it's metal, so it's not like a paint. I guess it's a painted texture, similar to some of the glass ones, but it's on metal instead.
That's cool.
So if people are looking for a quote-unquote standard size printer, then I will I'll provide links afterwards. And here's the failed print that I have. This is I think I've already given this one to my Patreon subscribers. It is a utility shelf I designed that is designed for like a router or a switch or something. And then you can use command strips on the back to hold it to the wall. Okay. And I did all the calculations on it. It'll hold up to 10 pounds easily. The command strips give out before the plastic will. Okay. But I'm using this for work because I have all of these. My day job's working on firmware. And so I'm using these to hold devices that I'm working on above my desk. So, got a new device, so I had to print another one. So now I have to start over.
Can you just kind of print the rest of it and use that PETG gloop and gloop it together?
I haven't bought any of that, but that probably would work, and I could probably get close enough. But, man, PETG. Let's see what we've got here. See if we've got any good questions in the chat. So we've got about 19 people watching. See some of my usual friends on here that joined me. And the whole point of the chat was I'm trying to do these every Tuesday as time allows me. While we're, all stuck at home, I'm trying to fill the Tuesday nights, since Tuesday nights weren't taken, as far as I could tell, by another group. So here I am on Tuesday nights, and the plan is to help with tech support primarily. I mean, I like coming with topics in case it's relatively dead air. But I want to help people that are stuck at home, that have questions that aren't getting answered in Facebook groups or through Twitter or whatever methods they've tried to get help from. And Bryan and I, or whoever I have guests that week on, will do our best to answer your questions. So let's see what we have here. If you see one, let me know. But I'm just going to start going through there.
It's Jim. Hi, Jim.
Let's see. Jim has joined us. Hey, Jim. Let's see. Textured or smooth sheet. So we got a textured or smooth sheet here. So this one that I was showing you is textured, just mildly textured. I might be able to show it to you. I don't know if it's worth the hassle, but it's just a mildly textured sheet. It's, like I said, it is metal, so it's just kind of what texture the paint gives it. Typically, I like a little texture if it's some sort of artificial sheet like that. And then if because the smooth ones, I don't know, with glass it works. I don't know how well it works with plastic or PET sheets. What do you think?
The PET, well, the PEI sheets work well for me.
Yeah, PEI, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Like I've got the Wham Bam flex plates, and I've got them with their PEX, which is sort of a modified PEI, and I have one with actual
I'm familiar with that.
And then I've got one that's got their PC, their polycarbonate, which is the build tap type surface. And that one sticks, to me, that one sticks a little bit too well. I'm always afraid when I'm kind of flexing that plate that something's going to get damaged just because the print sticks too well to it. But,
right.
flex plates to me they just make printing a joy, because it's so much more fun to be able to just, okay, I finished a print. I can take the plate off. I can go and pop the thing off, set it down, peel the skirt off of the thing, and then put it back on the printer and hit go again. And everything's still warmed up. If I'm doing like a production run or something, or if I'm going to print one model after another, I just pick the next model, and I don't have to wait around for it to heat back up. So, I mean, that's the thing that I like the best about them. But, even like
I've got a couple here. I've got one from the Ultistick, which I'm hopefully going to review here soon. And I've also got one from TH3D. And those will be the first PEI sheets that I've tested, because I haven't had a chance to test one before. And, as we were talking about, I like the glass, and so haven't even felt the need to try them so far.
Even on like a plain Ender 3, where it's got like that little almost fiberglass like board with the sticker sheet on it. And it's just held on with clips, that stays flat on the bed, and it's easy enough to take off. It's not magnetic, so it's not as convenient, but that one is still nice too, because you can flex it a little bit. You can't flex it as much as you can a spring steel sheet, but you don't have to flex it a whole lot to be able to get a print off of the bed. You just gotta
like this one. I mean, this one doesn't flex very much, but it's obviously enough to pop off a print like I just showed you. The only thing I find that sometimes is annoying with the metal sheets is if it's not a very big print or if it's not a very thick print. Sometimes it'll just flex with the bed, and then that doesn't do any good.
Yeah. And for that, I keep a hobby knife around like this. You can just kind of pop that blade out, because the blade is flexible. So you can the blade will bend, and you can kind of get it up under the edge of the print. But this is just the sheet off of a plain Ender 3. And it's got a little bit of flex to it, but it's enough. You know, you can get the corners of the print off of it. If it's a little tiny print, well, then you just smack it with something. But for a print with a big footprint that's touching a lot of that build plate, it's easier to be able to just peel the thing off like that than it is if you're printing on, say, build tack, just like a big build tack sticker directly on an aluminum bed. Right. If you have a big footprint, print, I'm saying print a lot, but if you've got something that takes up a big portion of the build plate, then you've got a completely non-flexible print surface. It's hard to get something underneath that to start to kind of break that print free.
Yep. You know, and Penguin's saying here that he's tried to clean it every which way, the glass, and can't get it to stick. You know, I don't know what to say, because, you know, those are the instructions I originally got from Ivan Miranda. And once I started doing it that way, it worked for me. But if it's still not working for you, then the only other advice I'd have is to get closer. Like maybe you're not squishing it into the bed enough. That's definitely true for glass. You have to get it to actually make a fair amount of surface contact if it's going to stick to glass. Maybe a little squishier than what you need for some other surfaces. So it's Tuesday. Yeah, I know. Chris is mentioning it's Tuesday. Yeah, I think we all forget from time to time. Killer just switched to using hairspray. That worked for him, so that's great. As you mentioned, Jim joined us, and hopefully Jim is still hanging out. He's starting to print.
He is. He has a question for you down there.
Oh, well, we're going to get to it. Let's see. Printed with a cured K-cup holder. I use glue stick. So, yeah, whenever I have a print that's not sticking to my glass, either it's too fine of a detail or just something's not working right and it's not sticking properly, glue stick is my go-to. One thing I really love about glue stick is it's really easy to clean off. And unlike hairspray, I don't have to use the aerosol, which I really hate using, because then it's everywhere. It's not just on my print bed.
Yeah. What I've done with the glue stick is I will put a little bit down on the part of the glass that I'm going to print on. And then after I've done a couple of prints there, if I'm printing like the same thing over and over, like a test print, I'll just get a paper towel and just get it a little bit wet, and just kind of go over the glue stick with a little bit of wet paper towel, and it
that works really well at spreading it out.
Yeah, and it smooths it too, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, because that was one of my initial problems with glue stick, was if you don't put it on just right, it'll get clumpy.
Yeah,
and so I kind of learned what you were saying by accident, which is if you start to try to clean it off, you actually just spread it out, and it still works really well.
That's how I learned. I was trying to clean it off, and I was like, hey, that actually is kind of nice and smooth now. I bet the print would stick to it.
So let's see. Next up, my favorite filament vendor. Currently, I am on a huge Filament 1 kick, and I've been using that a ton. I'm going to include my affiliate link, because that's what we do here in the chat. And but yeah, I switched to Filament 1. I mentioned this last time, so I'm going to keep it brief, but I switched to them when I was looking for a new monthly box that would just send me random colors of filament. But I'm already a member of MakerBox, which does the samples, but I want full spools for projects.
So you're doing the Profi box.
Yeah, the Profi box, which is just terrific. I love getting random colors to filament to print with, because these are things I probably wouldn't have bought. And then I can find a project to go with it, which is a lot of fun. And then, you know, if you're printing props or something, it doesn't matter what color you print with. And so you can use up those colors that you didn't care for anyway. But it keeps plenty of filament in the dining room, which fell on me the other day. But that's a different problem.
Oh, no.
What's your preferred filament vendor? I'm sure you have several, but what's your go-to?
It's kind of hard to say. My favorites that I've used for a while. I like 3D Solutech. Their filament prints really well for me. I started using Overture, which I think was like that may have been like the Amazon Basics or something, and then it quit being that, and now it's just Overture.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, but that one prints pretty well for me. I have I've got some protopasta here. Yeah, I've got some protopasta that my wife bought me because it's nice and glittery and sparkly and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I've got that.
Expensive stuff.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you get that expensive filament and you don't want to print anything with it until it's like, oh, I got to save it for a special occasion. And but I printed with Empire Strikes Black metallic a little bit when I did I did this ESUN spool recycling project that I got.
I saw that one.
Yeah, and so the black parts on it were that, I don't know, you can't see it really, but it's glittery. It's nice and sparkly.
Okay. Oh yeah, we saw it there.
Yeah, there we go. It's got glitter to it. So, I used it for that because the black went real well with that Alien Ooze PLA, and it went real well with the printed solid, the Jesse PLA. That white color is what is it called? It's kind of an off-white. It's like an architectural white. I forget the name of it, but it's a real good color for kind of a neutral white like that. It's not like a super bright white. So
yeah, that's something like what I printed this in, which is this is like an ivory. But anyway, let's get moving. We got lots of questions now. So question: all metal hot end, possibly direct drive. I answered this question the other day. Particularly on Ender 5s, would I do a direct drive? I've got a Humera that I would like to test on mine when I get back around to it. I bought one over the holidays and it's still not on here, as you can see. So I'd like that one, and that one's all metal. If you want to do a direct drive, I would think that would be a good choice. I know it's a lot of work to get it installed because there's a lot of wiring. You have to possibly change some firmware. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the details, but I like it because it's much lighter than some of the other solutions than taking another stepper motor with a big metal mounting and put it in on. I wouldn't do that to mine personally. I know a lot of people who have because I've seen a lot of postings. But yeah, I'm not looking to do a direct drive on this one. I just think it adds too much. You already have this motor, which I think, you can already see that one. So you already have your X motor on the carriage. I don't think I'd want to add another one unless it was something like Humera, which isn't adding as much as some of the other solutions. Skip all metal hot end. Yep, that's what Drone Pilot recommended. He said go with the Humera. Let's see what else we got. As far as just an all metal without direct drive, I had no plans on doing this until I had been running my Micro Swiss on my regular Ender 5 for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I switch nozzles a lot, and all metal is the way to go if you switch nozzles a lot, because then you're not readjusting that PTFE tube every time.
Yeah, I like my Micro Swiss.
That was the reason I switched to it on my Ender 5 Plus. I don't plan on doing a lot of exotic filaments on the E5 Plus, but that ability to switch nozzles and not have to worry about a leak because it's that metal on metal connection is well worth the money to me.
Yeah, I like my.
You'll save that much in time. Go ahead.
I was going to say I like my Micro Swiss all metal hot ends. I've got them on my Monoprice makers, and I've got one on my Ender 3 Pro. I've got an Ender 3 Pro and an Ender 3. The Ender 3's got the stock hot end on it. But I like my Micro Swisses. And I've seen people say, oh, you don't use a all metal hot end for PLA. It's like, why? I've been doing it since I've had my printers.
Yeah. I really can't figure out. I mean, I don't dismiss anyone's problems, because I know I've had my share of weird ones, but no, I got the retraction set to exactly what they told me to set it to when I looked at their profiles. Mm-hmm. And I haven't had any problems. On the Ender 5, I'm running a 4mm retraction. On the Ender 5 Plus, I needed to go to 7mm retraction, I think, due to the length of the PTFE tube. Mm-hmm. But it just works. You know, even if I have a little bit of stringing, it's nothing, you know, it's nothing you can't clean up in a second. Let's see. Jim asks, do you see anything weird with your silent Ender 5 Plus board? Flashed it with the newest THC. When I turned it on, the bed shot up to 300 and feed rate to 999%. I can tell you from I can tell you just as a firmware designer, what may have happened is if the layout of the saved memory area of that firmware is different from TH3D's firmware, from the stock firmware that you get from Creality, then it went to read values from your firmware, and they are completely not where they're supposed to be, and so you're probably just getting garbage. That's my opinion. And so if you go in there and you do, I think it's was it M502 does firmware settings? Is that right?
I think so.
Let me see.
I know you can reset the
yes.
You can reset it from the control panel too, I think.
M502 is factory reset. So if you go in there after doing a major firmware upgrade and you're not getting the values you expect, do an M502 and it'll do a factory reset to whatever values that they built into the firmware when they compiled it. So that's my recommendation. Yeah, if you switch even between minor versions of firmware, things in that saved memory can move, and particularly if you switch from something from the 1 series to something from the 2 series, then all bets are off how they've got that firmware. Just that EEPROM. Excuse me. That's what I've been trying to say.
The values that they're stored in specific memory locations, they use them for different purposes.
Exactly. So you don't know what you're going to pull out. Yeah. So, and I'm not running TH3D's firmware at this point, so I'm not exactly familiar with what he has set up. Let's see. Oh, I just jumped myself ahead. I may have to jump ahead because we're running behind here. Let's see. I'm gonna try. Let's see. Where are we? Hate to take up time looking for this, but oh, there we go. That's where we were with Jim. People say printing a little higher temperature will help you with glass. That's true. Jim's printing an on-air sign. Yeah, I actually bought lights and everything to print me what was not exactly on air, but something similar to that. And like everything else, the lights are sitting in the bag they came in, and I haven't had a chance to print it. I did this instead of the on-air sign. Let's see. New video coming soon from Edge of Tech, just as you'd expect. Let's see. Barticus switched to mirrored glass. He's happy with it.
Yeah, and I think the point behind using a mirror is that it's very easy to verify that it's flat. If the reflection is kind of distorted, like a funhouse mirror, well, clearly it's not flat. So it's easy to tell.
Yeah, William was asking about that affiliate link. So yeah, I posted that affiliate link right before you asked that. I'll post it one more time. It's Filament 1. They have something called a Profi box or a Profi box, or however you want to pronounce it. Go to their website. It's pretty easy to find. I think they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 a month or a little bit above that, but you do get 2 complete rolls of filament. They usually include a tool in the box as well as a fun project for you to do. I know 1 month they did this awesome Cybertruck model. Yeah, this is a Cybertruck from Fab 365. It's one of the foldable models. This was one of their freebies 1 month. So Good stuff. I've been really happy, and their filament print's so clean, which is why I keep using it. It's just nice to put filament in there, and it's not too dry, it's not too moist. It sticks to itself. It's really nice. Ziltech. I like Ziltech. If you're looking for a really inexpensive workaday filament, Ziltech works really well. Let's see. Half different colors, design. Let's see what we got here. So Killer Penguin's asking, hope this is a question, wondering if there's a setting I need to adjust in Cura when the print starts, the first layer or a few layers it bonded together, but you can see the lines. Let's see, but you can see all the lines, but after it's smooth and well blended. Long question. How can I get the bottom layers just as smooth and is just as well blended? I
would say check the extrusion width for the first layer, or get a little closer to the bed, because it sounds like the filament isn't squished enough when it's printing on that first layer.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was asking about vertical lines or horizontal lines.
I'm interpreting it as the like that first layer where it's doing just the back and forth diagonal lines to fill it in. Because I see that on mine, and I have to adjust that a little bit sometimes. Like if I've messed with the bed, and then I'll go through and level the bed, and then I have to go and do kind of either a test print or a big footprint print, so that I can get the nozzle moving across a big chunk of the bed, so I can kind of get that tuned on each corner. Because if it's a little bit too far away, the filament doesn't squish as much, and then you end up with a gap between where one row of filament goes and then the next one goes right next to it. So a little bit more squish usually can fix that.
That's true. And keep in mind, if you squish too much on those bottom layers, then you'll notice that the next 2 or 3 layers can also be kind of rough, because there's that readjustment. As you have way too much filament on the bed and it has to go somewhere.
Right.
So if you find out that, you're seeing rough layers up until the second or third, maybe even fourth layer, that they're rough, it's because you're probably squishing too much. The more you print, the more you'll eventually kind of get a feel for what that first layer height looks like. And it's really hard to do a video or to watch a video and get a feel for what proper layer height looks like. Someone can get a good view of, like, this is a beautiful first layer, and everyone will go, yeah, that's a beautiful first layer. But that really doesn't show you how thick it is. Right.
And for me, I've kind of learned a little bit that it looks better with a new nozzle, because the end of it, the tip of that nozzle is nice and flat at that point. Over time, the nozzle tip will wear a little bit, and it won't be quite as flat and smooth. But what you were saying earlier is something that I've noticed too. If the nozzle is plowing through the adjacent lines, it leaves it rough, and you can feel that as it's printing. So if it doesn't feel smooth, if it feels like ridged, like a plowed field almost, then you're too close.
Yep.
And you got to play with it.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah, you got to find that balance between too close and too far away.
And let's be honest, I mean, in most cases, not every case, obviously there are some specific types of printing, but in most cases, if you get too close, that's really not going to mess you up in the long run of the whole print. It may not look very nice while printing, and they can cause you problems, but overall, I don't think it's going to mess you up in the long run, as long as you're really, really not squishing that. Otherwise, you can really kind of screw up your nozzle.
Yeah. You don't want to drive the nozzle into the bed or anything, but it's something that you just kind of have to get a feel for. There are different test prints that you can print that will print like 9 little squares, little 20 millimeter squares that are 1 layer high. on the bed.
Yeah.
And I think the instructions for those are you just tell it to print, and then you look at them and you kind of make the adjustments. But I can't do that. I have to make the adjustments live. I have to
Same
be there,
thing. And that, again,
tweaking the knobs and making sure that it's because
something hard to show how to do. But you'll notice that. I mean, if you watch live streams from all sorts of plenty of the guys that know what they're doing because they've been doing it so long, you'll see when that first layer is going down on a brand new printer, they've leveled it, and then after they level it, that first layer, particularly for the first handful of prints, while you're kind of getting your springs and everything adjusted, you're adjusting as that either the brim's going down or as your skirt's going down. That's when you do your adjustment, and you can pretty much, if you're following along with it, you can usually get adjusted, before it even begins with the actual print.
Mm-hmm. And one thing about leveling is it's generally a good idea to level at least with the bed hot. I know some people say to level with the nozzle hot too. I don't like doing that just because if you're not careful and you've got a plastic or build tack type surface, you can melt a hole in that surface pretty quick.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But I'll level it with the bed hot. And if you've got a glass bed, I would say wait at least 5 minutes after the printer says it has come up to temperature, because what the printer is measuring on that temperature is it's measuring the temperature of the aluminum bed. It's not measuring the top surface of the glass. If you give it an extra 5 minutes, that gives that heat time to get into the glass a little bit more too. And it'll expand a little bit, and then when you level it, it'll be a little bit more accurate on that first go.
So I wanted to acknowledge Jay's question here, although I don't quite understand what he's asking. So he's saying he's got the baby stepping, which, if you're not familiar with baby stepping, what that is the ability to do micro adjustments to the height of your bed if you have a bed leveler and you want to change the Z, the Z offset of your nozzle, and you want to change it while you're printing. And you can baby step that, because you can't mess with the knobs, or you shouldn't mess with the knobs if you're using an auto bed leveler, because that can mess up your next print. So you want to adjust the baby stepping instead. But he's saying on some printers, or particularly on the Ender 5 Plus, he's got a problem where it's jumping on him. And unfortunately, I don't think I can answer really what's going on if it's jumping, because it sounds like a firmware or a touchscreen issue. At least on the Ender 5 Plus, I know how that screen works, obviously. And it's really is baby steps. You have to press it for every 0.1, or actually it's 0.01 that you want to baby step. So I don't know how it would go from, unless your baby stepping isn't what you think it is. Because in baby stepping mode, I don't even think there's a way to do 1 millimeter at a time. I think it has to be 0.01, at least on the default display.
Yeah, the only printer I've got that lets me do that is my my Prusa Mark III, and they just call it Live Z Adjust. They don't even call it baby stepping. But I think everybody else calls it baby stepping.
That's what Marlon calls it. So,
hi,
Crowdy joined us.
Is that Ben?
Hey, Crowdy, good to see. It's probably Ben. We assume it's Ben, unless someone wants to correct us. So good to see you, Ben. When I do Z offset prints, let's see, what's Drone Pilot got to say? Okay, so he's just giving some advice here about Z offset. Where are we? We're almost caught up, I think. Hey, look. Let's see. Been a little frustrating. Yep. First layer is always hard. I know I spent a good couple of weeks probably when I first got my first printer getting first layer, even to where most of my print stuck. So I think that's one of the most frustrating things. And there's a great misconception that auto bed leveling fixes all of your problems, particularly if you're a newbie printer, that having a bed leveler will make sure your bed's perfectly flat and then you don't have to touch anything. And that's a terrible misconception. I think a lot of people want to go with the Plus or the Pro models or something because they see an auto bed leveler and it doesn't do what they think it does.
The thing that it does is it sort of takes a reading of the bed to see where it's kind of warped a little bit. Because it's unless you've got like, you know, an inch thick bed that's been precision machined, it's probably not going to be perfectly 100% flat. Everything's got little hills and valleys in it, and doing a mesh bed level, it builds a mesh. It figures out where the little kind of hills and valleys are, because it really doesn't vary by much more than, you know, 0.1 or 2 or 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters for the most part. But, you know, that can be the difference between the filament sticking at the edges and not sticking in the middle. So a lot of times it's just a matter, even just leveling the bed is a matter of finding kind of that balance between, you know, it may be too close on the edges in order to get it just about right in the middle, or vice versa. If the bed is bowed in the middle, you have to kind of get it a little close at the middle so that it's, you know, close enough at the edges to stick. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, my recommendation, if people ask me, because I do get a lot of direct questions via Facebook messaging or Instagram or wherever people find me, and there are a lot of questions about auto bed leveling, and my go-to response every time is, if your bed is 235 by 235 or 220, you know, that normal bed size or smaller, I can't for the life of me figure out why you would want to have an auto bed leveler.
I have one reason.
Because your bed should be level, right? Like you were saying, I mean, I was going off of what you were saying about the sort of hills and valleys of a bed. Because obviously, if you end up with a 350 bed, or if you've got like this other printer I was building, which is just massive bed, the chance of getting that flat is not very high. But go ahead. What's your, you know, your use for it on a small bed?
If you use a touch probe, not an inductive probe, but a touch probe like a BL Touch, you can easily swap build surfaces and not have to mess with it. You can have an ultra base surface. You can have a clip-on spring steel surface. You can have different thicknesses of surface on multiple spring steel sheets. And, you know, in that instance, like the Wham Bam ones, the polycarbonate surface is thicker by about 1/10 of a millimeter than the PEX surface. So rather than have to tweak knobs in between swapping surfaces, you can swap in one surface for another, and the Z offset is always relative to what the probe felt when it touched the bed. So you don't have to. That's the only real use for a bed leveling sensor on a small bed like that, because otherwise it's mostly flat. It's almost always flat. But like I said, you know, it can have a little dip or a little bow in it. But one thing that I've found that helps on printers that have like the Ender 3 with just a little clip-on fiberglass bed with a sticker, if it has a dip in the middle of it, you can put a Post-it note on the middle of the aluminum surface and then clip the bed on, and that provides enough of a shim to level it out so that it's flat.
Yes, right. Yeah, I mean, because the only thing I'd add to using it that way is you need to make sure all of those add-on surfaces are flat.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to have to redo a mesh for every one of your surfaces, which could kind of be a pain.
Well, most of the time,
I know plenty of people have big. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I had the BL Touch on my Monoprice Maker Select Plus, I would do a mesh level every time, every single print.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I know plenty of people that just turn on that G29 for every print and step away and don't worry about it.
Yeah, it adds like an extra 30 seconds to the start of a print. It's not really that big of a deal. And I adjusted my G code so that it would heat the bed before it did the level.
Right.
So you know, it would heat it would get it up to temperature, and then it would go through and probe the bed. You know, talking about first layer adhesion though, and getting a print to stick, the one thing that took me forever to learn is slow the heck down. You know, you're
what, a 20 millimeter first layer, right? 20 millimeter a second first layer.
20
something.
millimeter a second. You know,
absolutely.
I got like my Monoprice
Be
Maker
patient.
Select Plus. Yes, I got that Monoprice Maker Select Plus in July of like 2017. And you know, you follow the instructions, the super basic instructions for building a profile in Cura, and they give you that awful forever old version of Cura. And you get it set up, and they say, okay, it prints at 50 millimeters a second. Okay, well, it's supposed to print that fast. So you print your first layer that fast, and it starts, you know, putting down plastic, and it's going so fast that it just drags, you know, the nozzle drags across the plastic as it's laying it down, and it just kind of curls up right behind the nozzle. So slowing down is the solution a lot of times. I think a lot of people now, I think, know that, but you know, three years ago, you know, that stuff wasn't really explained.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I don't know, I can tie real easily onto there about how people like to ask me how fast a printer can print, and my answer is, I don't print fast. I mean, every now and then I'll have a rush project where I'm like, I don't care what this looks like. I just need it to have this shape and this form and shove it off the print bed. And I'll say 100 millimeters per second and go. But that's a handful of times. Everything else I really want to look well. I want it to look really nice, or I'm going to try to finish it or something. And so my max speed normally is 60 millimeters per second. That's my normal print speed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm normally printing about 45 or 50.
Yeah. Again, I know people that print faster and they tune everything just right to do that. But I think you have to have a printer that's set up to do that, that has to have all of the hardware that's designed to go fast. Because there are a lot of settings that you're going to want to change if you're trying to be a speed demon versus if you're trying to, you know, print at normal speeds.
Usually the answer to the question of how fast can a printer print is the answer is how fast can the extruder and the nozzle keep up? Because usually that's the limiting factor is being able to melt the plastic consistently so that it will flow and stick. And one of the things that can affect that is if you've got a print profile that prints the outer perimeter at say 30 or 40 millimeters per second, and the other perimeters at 60 millimeters per second, and infill at 100 millimeters per second, and it's constantly changing that flow rate. That can affect the overall quality of it, because you're going from having to have you've got the nozzle tuned at a particular temperature. You can get up to a certain speed. If you go slower than that speed, then you're running the nozzle too hot for the filament. If you go faster than that speed, then you're running the nozzle too cold for the filament. So it's also a matter of finding a balance between print speeds for the different features of a model.
Yeah, and I think we've said enough. We got more questions.
We need to go on to the next.
Has there been any firmware updates to fix BL Touch not going to the far right of the bed? Not that I know of. I keep asking Crowdy if there's any new firmwares. I haven't heard anything yet, because that's been one of the problems. If you're not familiar what we're talking about, is they don't have the X offset correct for the BL Touch. So they go along probing, but they're not probing where the nozzle is going to be. They're probing where the probe is. And I don't know if you don't understand what I'm talking about because you haven't done mesh bed leveling, don't worry about it too much. But it puts the entire mesh off a few, I don't know, potentially 20 millimeters, right? 2 centimeters.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. Most of the time, it doesn't give you a huge problem. If your bed isn't, it doesn't have crazy topography, it's not going to matter a whole lot. But it's wrong, and you're also not calculating the far side of the bed, because it's not your probe never goes there. So let's see. What we got here? Hashtag makers. I'll just put that up there. I know what Jim was talking about. We like to tinker and upgrade, which is why I'm still not printing as much as I want to, because I need to stop tinkering and upgrading. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, we can't ever print because we're modding the printers.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I just recently, I think it was on a comment in one of my other videos. Someone asked, when are you, or yeah, maybe it was on Facebook, whatever. I got a comment, and it was, when are you going to get back to modding the Ender 5? And I'm just saying to them, why would my Ender 5 is great. Why would I mod my Ender 5? So that was the question I had. It was like, no, I did like 11 videos on modding the Ender 5. I'd rather not. You know, the only thing I could possibly do there is maybe an SKR or something, but I've been covering some of those on this printer. And so I think there's going to have to be a little bit of, okay, he did it here. Let's just try to do it on the other one. People need to realize, you know, when you watch the videos on YouTube, no matter who the host is for that channel, most of the information you find inside of in a video is going to be transferable to another printer. Now, the details may not be exactly the same, but you know, the knowledge is transferable. The process is transferable, and people need to keep that in mind. So, you know, if I do something on the Ender 5 Plus like this, like these ExoSlides, like that, you can do that on the Ender 5 too. You know, take the parts of the video that apply to both printers and transfer them, because not much of that changes. The details change, but not the way that the whole system works. Yeah,
the concept stays the same. Everything else is an implementation detail.
Yep. What do we got here? So people are asking about Creality's new printer. They had like a CR5 that I think came out. Is that right? I saw commercials for it. It's a fully enclosed printer. It's for a different market than I think what they have planned for like the hobbyist market.
Is it a bed dropper, or is it a one where the Z goes up?
That's a good question.
I think I saw something about that. It's got a rectangular bed instead of a square bed, and the build volume is somewhere around like Ender 3 size or so.
Yeah, it wasn't, like I said, I think they had a very specific market in mind for it. It's not an inexpensive printer here.
Probably education. The education market tends to like enclosed printers because it keeps, you know, curious fingers out of the works.
Here it is. I'm going to try this screen share, even though I haven't done it before. Sounds horrifying. Let's give that a shot.
You can do it.
Yeah. Let's see. It's not going to. That's weird. Not sure what this is going to do. Oh, look, you can just do a tab. Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, that's
yes, this is on the fly, guys. We're going to do this on the fly here. Where is it? StreamYard. Here, let's try that. What did that just do?
I don't know.
Are you seeing it?
It's happening.
There it is. There it goes. All right, I can see what's happening. So this is not Creality's website, so let me start by saying that. But this is a Creality CR5 high precision large printing size, and it is about it's over $1,000 for this printer. It is a bed dropper instead of a
bed slinger.
A bed slinger. Yep, there we go. And you see it's enclosed. It's got a jog wheel. They've already made me a little happier than a couple of the new printers. Like my jog wheels. Now, what's funny here though is it doesn't look like it's really enclosed. Meaning unless they've taken out the plastic for pictures, which I don't think they have. It is not really enclosed. It's just got a full frame on it. So it's like they took a Ender 5 and stuck it in a metal box.
Technically, the Ender 5 is already kind of a metal box.
Yeah, so Ender printing size is 300 by 225 by 320. So slightly bigger print volume than an Ender 5. So traditional manufacturing, architectural design, medical,
Drones, humans.
education. Yeah, I think to me, I think you said this was it looks educational to me.
Yeah, that's what it looks
Because
like.
with this design over the Ender 5, there's less to get your fingers caught in.
Yeah.
And your spool sits nicely on the back. It's just a nicer looking printer, and you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't think it would be difficult
to
to add panels to it though, just to keep fingers out. Add panels and a door.
Yeah, maybe it sure would be easier to enclose than the Ender 5. So anyway, hopefully that answers that question. That's the first real look I've taken at it. I'm just going to leave hashtag makers up the rest of the stream. Who are you guys? There we go. Hashtag makers. Figure out better part. And people asking about speeds now that we went in there. Travel speed, initial layer travel speed. Travel speed, I don't think it matters any different what speed you're traveling on the initial layer from what you're traveling later layers. I'll let Bryan comment in a minute. Initial layer speed is about 20 for me, about 20 to 30 on initial layer speed. Then the rest of the layers I set to 60 and then let it do the math on different walls. And then travel speed, I think on both printers, I have them set to either 120 or 150. Somewhere in that range. What about you, Bryan?
I have my travel speed set, depending on the overall speed of the print, anywhere from 100 to about 150 or so. But yeah, I don't think it matters. I don't think there's really much of a difference between travel speed versus initial layer travel speed, unless you want to be careful not to bump into something at a high rate of speed on that first layer. That's the only thing I could think of why you might want to have that slower on that first layer.
But I think that would be a bigger concern if you don't feel like you're getting a good layer. Because if you're getting a good layer height, you shouldn't bump into anything. If you're over squishing, you may be worried about scraping.
Yeah. And, I'm kind of 50-50 about whether I use Z-Hop or not, too. And when I do use Z-Hop, it's only about, 1 layer's worth of Z-Hop. The problem with Z-Hop is that you can get a little bit of stringing.
Yeah. And I only use Z-Hop usually when I have really delicate prints. And I'm worried that if it hits, but you can also accomplish the same thing usually by using avoidance. I forgot what the setting's called, but there's a setting that says avoid towers and avoid, supports and stuff like that. So
Z-Hop sometimes helps me on prints that where the parts cooling is not as effective as it could be. Like if you've got like a 45-degree kind of overhang and it wants to start curling up, that can be a problem.
Stuff like this.
Z-Hop,
where you get stuff hanging down and then it wants to curl up. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. And at least with Z-Hop, if the nozzle's coming in from over here, it's a little higher and it can clear it instead of just smacking into it.
Let's see, ExoSlide mod. I don't want to talk too much about it. I've spent almost 2 weeks on it. And I feel like I spoil too much if I say too much. And I've spent a lot of time on the ExoSlide mod. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, me saying I've spent a lot of time on it has nothing to do with whether it's any good or not. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of the opposite. I'm going to mention this in the review. This is a project. I don't want to scare people away from it, but I do think you have to have a decent amount of mechanical inclination to be able to do this mod. It's kind of like doing a linear rail mod where if everything isn't lined up just perfectly, you can end up with a problem. Now, this doesn't have the same problems that a linear rail mod does. A linear rail mod has to be perfect or you get binding.
Yeah,
And one of the nice things about the Exos,
I was going to say, if you've got the two rails for a specific axis, those have to be 100% parallel. If one's in by like half a millimeter, by the time those glides get down to the end, they're binding.
Yeah, and so this doesn't have that problem. In fact, this kind of takes care of that problem for you. It works differently. But there's still some precision parts of this that you really have to take into account when you're setting it up. You have to be comfortable taking the whole thing apart and putting it back together, because it really is a pretty substantial teardown of your motion system. Again, I'll cover this in the full video. And it still has some of the problems, though, I think, that a linear rail mod does. It does make things more rigid than the wheels do. So here are my wheels. But again, I like it. I think it's a really nice solution. I do think it is comparable to doing a linear rail mod in terms of what you're getting out of it. But like I said, I've spent some of my time debugging other things that I found problems with my printer because I was doing such a mod. So that's an interesting part. And that's the part I'm really not going into, because that's what I've spent so much time on, is realizing, oh, wow, I didn't realize that on my printer wasn't really configured the best way, or wasn't set up the best way. So you can kind of learn a lot about your printer by tearing it down and trying to put it back together. Mm-hmm. And then doing a test print and going, holy crap, why isn't that test print turning out? All I did was change the motion, and this has nothing to do with motion. Anyway, so it's fun. I really do. It's been a fun mod, just a more time-consuming mod than I usually do.
Are you using the little Delrinner palm wheels on that, or are you using the metal wheel version of it?
I started with the palm wheels, and he's actually got something newer than the palm wheels.
Because after you did that stream with Reality, I saw that not only did they have the wheels, they also had like a metal wheel that you could use.
Yeah, so so he's got Giles, who designed this, and these are patented. But Giles, who designed it, basically has them set up to where you can use them for something as simple as a 3D printer, but you can also use them for CNCs and other things like that may have a much higher preload or a much higher weight that you're going to put on these. And so that's where those metal wheels come in. Is okay. if you really need a lot of weight and don't really care if it's louder. So I was doing the palm. He's got something newer than the palm on here. So those are what I'm testing right now. They just sent me those last week, and I got them yesterday. So cool. Plastic, though. So to general answer, the plastic wheels on 3D printers, they're going to be a lot quieter. And if you're worried about them having too much flex in them, these don't flex. I mean, even if you've played with your palm wheels, I mean, they're hard. I mean, palm is not a soft plastic.
No, it's like roller skate wheels, the hard rubber stuff.
Yep. I missed it. Have you done a video showing how to adjust E-steps on the Ender 5 Plus? No, but that is the next video I'm doing in my 10-minute video series, my little 10-minute how-to series. I started by showing how to connect to the printer. The next video I have lined up for that series is how do you adjust things like E-steps if you're using a printer that the settings are not on the display. Because it's a problem. And I didn't realize, a lot of the how-tos out there expect that you can adjust it using your knob or something like on the display. But if you're not familiar with hooking up and running the actual commands, people aren't comfortable or used to doing it that way. Let's see. I got We Believe in You. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was when you were going to do your screen share.
Shows you how far I'm behind now. What were you gonna say?
I'm gonna say Jim has absented himself from the chat. He had to go.
All right, so I'll say bye to Jim even if he's not here. I'll talk to Jim later, I'm sure. Said there was on the Crowdy website, they've got them with white panels. I don't know, maybe that's a market difference. So what do I keep looking at? He says I keep looking at it. Yes, I guess he's talking about my ExoSlides here. They're right here. You can't see them. Here's what we do, just because
it's called teasing the next video.
Right, just because it's a live stream and we can do this. We're gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna switch to full screen, and I'm going to make everyone sick by moving this camera. There we go. Now you can see the ExoSlides, and they move extremely well. And here's the x-axis, which you can't see really well from that angle, but it's still better than just teasing and not showing. So there we go. It's very all installed. This kit, by the way, I will say the kit is phenomenal. It comes with everything that you need to do the mod. There are a couple of gotchas, obviously. It's a brand new kit, and but I do try to cover even the installation. I cover, you know, I'm not going to mention this in the full video, so this is something a little extra for people watching. But you know, when you're making YouTube videos, it's always a challenge of, and particularly if you watch, I think, mine and Bryan's channels, it's a challenge as to figure out how much time to spend doing something and how much to show and when have you talked about it too much. And so that's always a balancing act, because you don't want people tuning out during the middle of a 30-minute installation.
Mm-hmm.
So there are going to be some people that want you to show every step, and they're going to follow along with you. And they want all the details. And then there's other people that are like, I didn't need any of that. And so they you know, too long didn't read you and leave the leave the video. I mean, it's always a challenge finding how much to show and when you've done enough.
Yeah, I mean, you don't generally want to show unscrewing a screw in real time.
Yes.
Speed that up. And I've learned how to do that pretty well in the editing, to the point where it's basically just show like the last couple of turns already in fast motion. Pull the screw out the last couple of turns in the next one, last couple of turns in the next one, instead of just kind of poking at it and pulling it out, poking it. There are ways to edit that down to get it to where it's more bearable to watch. But there may be some people that like watching the whole.
Oh, sure.
Like going through a live stream. On a live stream, you can't speed it up. It all happens real time. That's kind of what's fun watching Chris Riley put a printer together too, because you're there for the whole thing.
I was going to say the same thing. Adam Savage on Test It. I mean, he will spend however long it takes putting something together, and it's people that enjoy that kind of level of detail find it kind of relaxing or therapeutic to kind of watch someone go through the motions of crafting something or building something. Mm-hmm. I do think that sometimes it takes someone like Adam Savage to make it that interesting, or to make it really feel like you're watching a craftsman. And so I think the delivery person has something to do with that as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see what we have. This is a good one. I'm going to let you answer this one, Bryan. One of my screws is removed the bed fully and has stripped, so I can't unscrew it. Do you know an easy way to remove it?
Screws to remove the bed. Are we talking about the leveling screws that the knobs meet to?
It would have to be. It would have to be the knobs, because I mean, that's the only thing holding the bed down.
Well, yeah, that's true. Maybe
there's not enough information here, but
I don't know.
In general, what do you do if you've got script screws?
Well, the ones that I've seen, they just have, there's a hole in the bed. It's not threaded, and the bed screw goes through it. That that 30 millimeter long screw or whatever. Like on the Ender beds, it's a countersunk screw, but it's not held in by anything. It's just held in by friction. A lot of times
Killer,
on
if you can give us a little bit more information, we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little confused as to what's stuck there, unless you've somehow stripped your knob,
the leveling nut. Yeah,
the leveling knob, but I haven't seen that before. That would be new to me. Okay. Let's see.
You might be talking about
Have I tried Marlin 2? Yes, I've put Marlin 2 on one of the Big Tree Tech boards that I'm working on. I did some sort of pre-video work on one of those SKR boards just to get it loaded up, get some pre-configuration done, and I played with configuration. It's not that much different than Marlin 1. It really isn't. There are new options and they're in new places and some of the files have moved around. But if you've done Marlin 1 work, then Marlin 2 is not that much different.
I think
some of the features are really nice.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of what Marlin 2 is refactoring and optimizing some of the code from Marlin 1 and just reorganizing it and getting it in a place where it can be extended further into the future.
Right.
Because I think there was just a lot of legacy stuff and design choices that Marlin 1 was stuck with from, back in its very early days.
Let's see. Jay asked, how do you one baby step per click of the knob? So I thought Jay was asking about the Ender 5 Plus, which is a touchscreen. It sounds like Jay's asking about a printer that has a knob. And I will tell you that I don't know which printer specifically you're talking about. Let me move this up. But if you're talking about, normal Marlin, if you're not getting a fine enough click ratio out of that knob, it could be that the Marlin configuration is not quite right for your knob, and that knob is double stepping or even more per click, and there may not be anything you can do about it without without mentioning it to the manufacturer or recompiling Marlin yourself.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you might have to dig into the source code to make an adjustment to.
So the Island Engineer asks, he's thinking about pulling a trigger on the Ender 5 Plus tomorrow. Should I consider another one or just do it? Oh boy, that's a loaded question. So there's a long answer and a short answer. The short answer is check out my channel and watch the videos because I've covered it a ton. You can skip the preview video, I think, and just watch the full review. Then find out the information that people have had a problem with the power supplies. And if you're willing to deal with those potential issues, the Ender 5 Plus is a good way to go. So that's the shortest answer. A longer answer would go into all of the details and exactly what you're looking for and would be way more involved. It also take into consideration, is this your first printer? So I've told plenty of people that I don't think it's the best first printer. It's kind of a difficult printer to get working for some people. And then I get plenty of emails and plenty of messages that say it was my first printer, and I absolutely love it. So, for the first printer, my go-to recommendation is an Ender 5 Pro. It's easy to assemble. It's easy to get going. You learn a lot of the basics without a lot of the hassle of your first printer. So that's my go-to answer when people ask. Plus, it has a silent board built into it, which is really nice. I don't think you have any direct experience with an Ender 5 Plus, but do you have or an Ender 5 Pro for that matter? But do you have a go-to first printer recommendation for people while we're talking about it?
I would probably go with an Ender 3 Pro, and the only reason I would go with the Pro over the standard Ender 3 is the noise level of it. The stock standard Ender 3 it's just loud. It's the power supply fan is it's one of those on all the time fans. Yeah, the power supply fan is on all the time on the Ender 3. On the Ender 3 Pro, it's thermally activated. So if the power supply gets warm and it wants to cool itself down, its fan turns on. And when its fan is on, the fan on that Meanwell on the Ender 3 Pro is a lot quieter than the stock fan on the regular Ender 3. Oddly, the cooling fans, both for the hot end and mostly for the hot end, and for the electronics box on the Ender 3 seem louder than the ones on the Ender 3 Pro. Now, I think part of that for the electronics box between the Ender 3 and the Ender 3 Pro is that on the Pro, the fan is on the bottom of the electronics box. On the Ender 3, it's up on the top, so you can hear it more. But, it's loud. So I'm one of the things that makes perfect sense.
And someone was asking me, and I didn't have any experience with it, so I wasn't aware of the loudness.
Yeah, that's the thing about it that's kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just old, but my complaint about printers these days is that they're loud, and it's almost always the fans.
Yeah. I mean, it was my biggest complaint when I got the Plus here was that why did they ship it with a old board? Why didn't they put a silent board in it to begin with?
Yeah,
it's easy to fix, but you shouldn't have to spend extra to get a quiet printer.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the video that's coming out Monday because the board in that printer has the old 4988s. And it seems to me that, I get that the silent board, the silent stepper driver is like a premium bullet point on the spec sheet.
Sure.
But those things have got to be in such great supply now that it doesn't cost any more to use the silent drivers than it does to use the regular drivers.
Yeah. I think as people demand them, we'll see the fading out. But I think there's also some, I don't know, sometimes there's a lack of engineering and how to install them correctly and how to set them up correctly. And, the 4988s are great because they're powerful and they don't have to worry about skipping or not having enough power like you do with the silent ones. And there may be a little bit of a learning curve there for some of the engineering.
Okay. I guess I can buy that.
But it's not too much for us.
Yeah.
We can figure it out.
There are printers,
and it's not our full-time job.
Silent boards, though. So clearly the engineering of it has been worked out.
Yep. So we're going to go here for 7 more minutes and we're going to wrap up. So if that's good for you, I was only planning on an hour, but since people have hung out with us, I figure we'll keep going with them.
I'm good.
So Killer Penguin's got back to us here in regards to the screws. He was referring to the screws that use the hex key that hold the metal bars that the knobs go through. Okay, so maybe I'm going to have to answer this one. Hex key. Okay. So is
the head script where the driver goes? Is that what the?
Let me show you. I can probably switch again. And then we'll see if I can get it on my side camera. It's not going to be good, but I'm going to try. At least I can point you in the right direction, if nothing else. So right here, they've got these channels. And the knobs go up through the channels. And this still looks terrible. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get rid of Penguin's question here to show you more. So we have the knobs here, and then there's this channel. And there are, I assume he's talking about these, there are hex keys here that attach this channel onto these big steel bars. And I'm guessing he stripped one of these somehow, because they were probably in there pretty good from the factory.
That sounds like something you're going to have to use like an easy out to get it out.
It depends on what part he stripped. Did you strip the head? Did you strip the screw threads, or did you strip the threads out of the steel?
Oh yeah.
And if you strip the screw heads, as he mentioned, there are special tools that will grab that screw head no matter what you've done to it. Hopefully.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say it's basically it's like a almost like a self-tapping screw, but it turns backwards. Instead of righty tighty lefty loosey, it's righty loosey lefty tighty. So when you're turning the screw head in to like a strip screw head, when you're turning the screw remover, it eventually digs down into the screw enough that it's not going to turn anymore. And then as you continue to turn that, it starts to unscrew the screw. That's if the screw head is stripped.
Yep. So you may need a special tool if you're talking about the head. If you're talking about the screw itself, typically if it's the threads, either from the screw or from the steel, luckily or hopefully you can get in the side of that screw and sort of lift it up with the flathead screwdriver while unscrewing it, and you might be able to get it out that way. But it doesn't mean you're going to be able to put a new screw in there and tighten it unless it was the screw itself that got stripped. Jay finally got back to us on which printer he's got. He's got the CR10, and he was talking about that jog wheel. So if you're still having issues with the jog wheel on the CR10, it's possible you kind of got a lame jog wheel and it's skipping, or there could be a problem with the firmware. I don't have a fix for you that I can easily cover in this stream because it truly is either a hardware problem or a firmware problem.
Okay. Killer Penguin said it was the screw head. Okay.
So yeah, they make tools for that. If you've stripped something, I've got a possibly easier solution. What is it? The Torx head can sometimes be used. A larger Torx will sometimes fit in there, and you can get it out. So if you have one of those bit sets like most of us have, grab either the Torx for the same size, or grab the Torx that's one size up. And if you don't know what a Torx is, I'm talking about the star head.
It's a 6-pointed
the one with, right. And sometimes that can be used. I've done that before where I've stripped one out and I just grabbed the Torx and it's just bigger enough to grab a hold. Let's see. Good morning to Mr. Coffee Paul. Or Coffee. I've always said that's one of the first sponsors I want to get for my channel is a coffee company. So if you know a good coffee company, Death Wish, if you're watching this channel, I would love a good coffee sponsor. I drink about 4 cups a day.
This episode sponsored by
if I'm
coffee.
Exactly. That's what I'm looking for. As Pierre said, there's probably Loctite on that screw to begin with. If not, I'm telling you what, this you can't see it here, but the idler that's on that X-axis on that Ender 5 Plus, I used every tool I had to get that thing unstuck. There's a I don't know if it's an M5 or if it's bigger than an M5. It may be like an M6 or something, but it was massively. I took screwdrivers and attached pliers to them and created these exotic multi-tools to get that thing out. I mean, that has nothing to do with that was absolutely nothing to do with the ExoSlides other than you have to get that idler off in order to reuse it. And it was just a huge pain.
Mr. Coffee Paul says he drinks about 40 cups of coffee a day.
Ooh. Wow. Apparently Mr. Coffee Paul needs needs his own sponsor. Let's see. Wonder if you found a way. Let's see. What's Killer Penguin's got here? In the E5 Plus, we're replacing the silent board. Did Crowley put a type of clear glue on the connections? Yeah. Yeah, that's just hot glue. So yeah, when you're pulling that apart, I think I mentioned it really fast in my video where I replaced that silent board. That's just hot glue. It peels right off.
They say they put it
it's
on
pretty
there
easy
to keep connectors from popping off during shipping, and I gotta wonder what kind of shipping process would cause those to come loose? Or like just pushing it out the back of a plane, or?
And you know what though, as a person that has done contract manufacturing before, it'll happen. You don't know how, but you'll get something and it happens. So it's a lot cheaper for them to go around that board and pop than it is for them to ship one printer back to China, probably.
Yeah. I just have a hard time envisioning the amount of force required on the entire printer to dislodge a single connector.
Oh yeah. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, see, Bob said the same thing, Torx bit. Now, Bob's solution was to put a rubber glove over it as well.
Get a little extra grip.
Yep. All right, so we are over time. We've answered all the questions, at least every question that I have seen. So I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. And most of all, I want to, of course, thank Bryan for joining me here. I asked him kind of last minute to join me here, and he was game, and I appreciate that, Bryan. So I'm going to let you have first dibs at telling everybody what you've got going.
Well, okay, so we're doing an outro. Okay, hi everybody.
We have to, yeah. Of course.
We got to do the outro. Okay, I am Bryan Vines. I am the host of the BV3D channel. You can find me on YouTube at the BV3D channel. You can find me on Twitter at Bryan_Vines, and that's Bryan with a Y. I have an Instagram that I don't use, so that's probably not a good bet. And I guess that's pretty much it. So find me on YouTube, find me on Twitter, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And now, your turn.
So again, thanks, Bryan. I appreciate you dropping by. I think that these are more fun and more dynamic with co-hosts. So I appreciate you giving us your time. Let's see what's going on here. I think I've covered everything that's coming up immediately. In my last stream, I've talked about stuff that are sitting on my floor that I just can't wait to get to, but can't yet. But so I'm going to get to them. I hope everyone obviously stays safe. I hope everybody is taking it easy and enjoying time with their family as much as humanly possible when you're talking about months of time with their family. But obviously staying safe, staying clean, and staying quarantined with whatever your local governments are asking of you. That's first and foremost. What else is going on here? Oh, one more thing. So in about 30 minutes ends the promotion that I've been doing on my Patreon. And I want to pump this real quick because I have a lot of stickers. You know what? I've got this one over here. I'm going to switch so that everybody gets a good look at these. And again, I am sharing these because I was supposed to be at Murph and I was supposed to be at IRF, and we don't know if we're doing these anymore. And so even if you join my Patreon for 1 month to get a hold of these things, this is basically just covering the price of the sticker and the cost of getting it to you. But I've got, there we go. I could 3D print that bumper stickers. We've got Kersey Fabrications. These are really nice. I thought these were cool. Holographic ones. They were running a special on these because they were new. And I'm going to pull this one off my printer because that's where I keep this one now. Also, a magnet. So I actually have one of these on my truck. And I have one on my Ender 5s because they have these big metal boxes at the bottom. So they're fun. Again, I'm offering these to anyone that joins at the $10 a month level on my Patreon. You've got about 30 more minutes to do it to get in on it for this month. If you join at $10, it's included in that price. No extra, shipping or handling or anything like that. If you cover the Patreon fees for this month, you guys will all get stickers. And again, that was, I can't send them out to everybody for free as much as I would love to. So this was kind of my way of still getting them out to people that thought they were cool and wanted some. So let me real quick, I'm going to send you the link in the chat.
Hey, Chris, is it okay if I drop the link to my YouTube channel in the chat?
Yes, please do. Drop whichever links to your social media that you would like. YouTube channel, and I think you do a fair amount on Twitter, so drop that link as well. Where did that go? There's StreamYard. All right. So first of all, there is my Patreon link for anyone that would like one of those stickers. Again, if you join for 1 month, are happy with the stickers, that's great. What else? I guess that's it. I'm going to be back. I'm trying to do this every week as long as my schedule and my family let me. Again, the primary goal of these is to have a conversation, either to help you out with your problems and do these, tech support sessions, or to have someone on that knows more about a subject than I do, and can, sort of provide some information. So I've got a couple of people in the wings that hopefully will be here in the next couple of weeks, that will be co-hosting with me, and we'll have specific topics. So yeah, Bryan, he was here just knowing more about everything. So that's what that was.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
But again, hey, if you are on social media, if you see me posting about these, please share them, because the more people that I can get in these streams, the more tech support I can do. I'm just trying to find a way to give back while people are stuck at home with some new printers, and they're not leaving their house to go find a local maker space to go get help for. So this is the let's see. Anyway, this is the stream that is your new local makerspace. So, again, thanks, Bryan.
Thank you for having me on.
And we will see you guys, or I'll see you guys next week, and you'll probably see Bryan very soon in some of his videos. So, yep. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.
I'm still smiling.